RadioIslam.com.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We're talking about dawah and how to bring Muslims in, and now we got to focus on another problem. Comment was made yesterday afternoon that dawah is more than just handing someone a brochure and walking away. Muslims, our obligation extend to new Muslims beyond the pronouncement or leading them through the pronouncement of Shahada. We're going to be addressing the topic of why new Muslims leave Islam, a phenomenon that has taken some of us by surprise to the extent that you really don't see it. And unfortunately, I think that extends from the fact that our contact, or we feel our job is done once, as I stated, once one accepts Shahada. And to lead in the discussion as it relates to this particular point in time, and at this time I'd ask Brother Ilyas Ba Yunus to step forward and go forward with the discussion.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والسلام على رسوله الكريم نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The East West University on South Michigan Avenue here in Chicago is owned by, actually it is headed by, a very good brother of ours, Dr. Wasulullah Khan, and for quite some time we have been discussing as to whether or not it will be a possibility for us if some educational institutions take lead in conducting researches about Islam and Muslims in this country. And so he was kind enough to gather a few resources, and then he asked me to come on a sabbatical leave to Chicago in 1996. So I spent one whole summer and one full fall semester, almost like 7 or 8 months in Chicago. My main objective was basically demographic research, trying to estimate the Muslim population. First, our objective was really very modest, just to make an estimation of Muslim population in Chicago land area. But then we found out that it was possible for us to cover the whole state of Illinois. So it took us nearly about 4 or 5 months or so to make this estimation. So the way we conducted it was that we would, especially in Chicagoland, in these 5 county areas, we would pick Muslim sounding names. Then we will try to contact them and request them if they agreed, we would request them for subsequent interviews and so on and so forth. Very surprisingly, during these interviews we found that although the head of the household had a Muslim name, but then actually he had reverted back to non-Islam, and this aroused our interest and we wanted to explore further in this direction. And we were able to find out at least about 150 such individual households which experienced Islam for quite considerable time, but then they reverted back to non-Islam. So as we interviewed them, we were able to find some patterns in this research. As I wrote in my memo here, I do want you brothers to be cautious in making any generalizations from this, because the people whom we interviewed did not constitute a random sample, is one thing. Many of these interviews were conducted on telephone, and therefore we were not able to go deeper or at length into their family conditions and their job situations and their marriage problems and so on and so forth. But then we were able to find out that there were at least about four major groupings of people who were involved in Islam and subsequently went back, gave up Islam. These were ex-convicts who constituted the largest number of people in our sample, almost like 50%. And then there were, the second largest group was that of the ex-wives of ex-Muslim husbands. They were not living with their husbands anymore. They were divorced or they were separated. Many of them also had children, and so the third major group was that of the children. And in the end, the smallest group was that of the people whom you called drifters or transients. And as one of them put it, they were floaters. One of them said that he was born in an Episcopalian family. Then a few years ago he had become a Buddhist. Today he is a Muslim and he doesn't know what he is going to be tomorrow. So Islam actually has had evidently a great deal of impact upon the thinking of these people. How they came to Islam and how they gave up on Islam really are two major questions which we all of us have to, who are engaged in Dawah activity, must be interested in answering these questions. First, ex-convicts. The question as to why do people who are spending time in the prisons become involved in Islam. We don't know when Islam first came to the American prisons. There are quite a few speculations. In late 1960s, I was myself involved with some of the prisons around here in Illinois when I was living in Peoria. At that time, Muslim population was really very, very small, and especially among indigenous Muslims, most of the people who were Muslims, who called themselves Muslims, were the followers of late Elijah Muhammad, and some of the people who broke away from him and became accepted Sunni Islam. So probably these were the people who, that is, those who were convicted, they were Muslims already, those who were convicted and went to the prisons, were the ones who introduced Islam in the prison. But then the question, why did Islam spread in prisons all over the country, is really a very interesting question, and I can only have speculations about it. I was speaking to the chairman of the Council of Muslim Chaplains, North America. He, fortunately for me, he lives only about 100 miles away from me, and so I have been able to interview him and saw him many times and spoke to him. According to his estimation, there are nearly about 70,000 Muslim convicts spending time in prisons all over the country. What they do actually have in mind, we do not know. Why they were Buddhist before or why they were Episcopalian before. The most important thing is that today they are Muslims. If they are Muslims today, then we should be able to capitalize upon that state of mind that he or she has. I personally think that these people are very difficult to catch because probably their commitment to Islam is not really as high as that of the people coming out of the prisons, or even as high as of the women who married with Muslim men as such. But you see, we are in not taking care of these ex-Muslims are in a way missing the bus. We are losing a very large number of people. According to our estimation in that research project, we found that out of every 100 people who accept Islam, 75% of them give up on Islam. And this is a very big loss. So no matter how much we gloat that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the United States, Dawah really is not the biggest contributor to it. Probably immigration is still the largest contributor to the growth of Islam.